Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Candidates Night for 2014. We're pleased to be here. We want to thank everyone at PSU and the staff here for their endeavor to invite us in. A little bit of bookkeeping and housekeeping for you. If you have one of these, please either put it on completely silent or shut it off so there's no interruptions during the meeting. And if you need the restrooms, out the door to the right, and I think that takes care of our housekeeping rules. This evening we'll be posing some questions to the candidates, and they will each answer the same question in turn. They'll have opening statements that can go up to 3 minutes. Then, as the questions are answered, they will have up to 3 minutes each time to answer. And we'll open the meeting with an opening statement from Omer Ahern.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. My name is Omer Ahern, Jr. I live up on Cummings Hill Road in Plymouth, where I have a small certified tree farm. And I'm running for selectman again. And I want to thank Mike and Armand for running as well. I think it's great that we have so many folks interested in running for office. I think that's important. I want to thank PSU also for hosting this forum tonight. Appreciate you giving us the facilities. Thank you. And my reason for running for the select board is I want to be of service to my community. I'm a native of Plymouth, born way back in 1954, not 1854, but 1954. I know the whiskers are a little bit misleading, but they didn't fully debrief me or decommission me from the Marking the Moment play a year and a half ago. So that's why the whiskers are still here. So again, I'm interested in serving my community. Our town of Plymouth has a lot of very strong points. We're blessed to have, I believe, we're blessed to have the university here in town, and we have a lot of nonprofits here in town, but I believe that we need to do more to promote private enterprise here in the town of Plymouth, and by promoting private enterprise, that should bring in more jobs, more businesses to our community, and this is what I'd be working for. I'm a conservative. I'm going to be watching very carefully the dollars. I'm a taxpayer here in town, and the green light means what, Bill? I have 1 more minute. Okay, thank you. So, again, I would like the opportunity to serve the people of the town of Plymouth as a member of the Select Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omer. And next we'll go to Mr. Conklin for his opening
I
statement.
was thinking maybe you'd say, I was hoping maybe you'd go to Armand next. I have written out this thing that I was going to read, except that the font is so small I can hardly see it. I have been a selectman in Plymouth for one term, for 3 years now. I've enjoyed the time very much. Val Scarborough's been the chair of the select board, I think, for the whole 3 years that I've been on the board, and she does just a fantastic job. The entire group has really been very cooperative with each other, and we've really made our decisions almost entirely unanimously. In part, I think that's because we have a great town administrator and town staff, as well as very competent, knowledgeable, and hardworking department heads, all of whom are very conscientious about not only their work, but their budgets, which is, of course, of primary concern to us all the time. We have managed to keep our budget essentially flat over the past 3 years, despite the fact that our health insurance expense and, more notably this year, the state retirement system expense has really gotten very high. We think that we're probably going to have to focus a little bit more on the in-town roads that we've neglected over the past few years, but the town administrator and the road superintendent have managed to leverage a considerable amount of federal money to get some of our more rural roads done, and we're very happy about that. Everybody knows that the police and fire facilities have been of some concern, but one of our recent accomplishments was to buy the Boyle House next to the fire department, where we think the fire department will be able to create some living and office space to take some of the pressure off the existing fire department. And we think that that's going to not solve the fire department problem, but probably put them in better shape for at least the next several years. And the police department situation is sort of on hold at the moment. I would very much like to continue the work as a selectman in the town of Plymouth, and I would appreciate it if you'd all vote for me on March 11th.
Thank you, Mike. And Almond Gerard.
First of all, I want to thank you that came tonight and everybody out there watching on TV. This is just a wonderful opportunity for me, just being a local resident, a new opportunity that has arisen. And I really, really appreciate the chance to come out and talk to you about how I can help the community. Many of you out there maybe don't know much about me, so I've sort of prepared this statement in large font so I can read it. So I'm gonna read a little bit about this so people can maybe get to know a little bit about me. So thank you for letting me speak tonight. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. I do really feel privileged to be representing our town as a candidate for select board. It's an honor to me to be up here speaking to you. My family moved to New Hampshire in 1984 to escape the urban life in Rhode Island. Prior to my move, my family had vacationed in the Lakes region, the White Mountains, and this experience of when I was younger had a really profound effect on my decision to settle here. After living and working in the Plymouth area now for over 20 years, I truly believe I am part of a special, unique community. You know, as residents of Plymouth, we are all fortunate to be part of this community. We combine a vibrant downtown, a progressive commercial area, and a university with a regional mission while having proximity to the lakes and mountains of our state. Our town, its location, in my opinion, they are among the finest in this region and in this nation. I mean that. It is certainly a blessing to be cherished here. I think we can all agree with that. I have come to know many of you well over the last 20 years. My work here in town, I've worked at Medor Chevrolet, for those of you that are old enough to remember that, Reinhardt GMC, Agway, and in my current position, the downtown office at Northway Bank. I feel very fortunate to live and work in this vibrant community and to have come to really get to know its people. I truly believe that it is of utmost importance to be an active citizen, and I am committed to continuing my current involvement with civic activities. I took a lead role in the 250th anniversary parade this past year, our holiday parades in December, even put up the Christmas lights on the town common. Also worked with several nonprofits to provide services to those in need here in Plymouth. It is really vital for me to give back to a community that has given me so many great years. As your selectman, I will welcome the opportunity to represent the voters and work to maintain our rural quality of life in balance with an intentional movement into our future. All of us here have a vested interest in the progression of our community for not only ourselves, but for our future residents as well. Now, I have this little quote from John F. Kennedy I'd like to just reiterate. It sort of reflects my mindset, sort of my life mindset. So, there are risks and costs to action, but they are far less than the long-range risks of comfortable inaction. Sort of a good thing to contemplate there. So again, thank you for letting me speak tonight, and I really welcome this opportunity.
Thank you, Armin. First question, Mike. What do you see as the two most important issues facing the town of Plymouth in the next 3 years?
That's tough.
Microphone, please.
One thing about issues is you don't really know what they are until they arise, so it's a little hard to say. I think that the two, one of the things that strikes me as being particularly important to the town of Plymouth right now is that the Tenny Mountain Highway properties are going to probably be developed in some form over the next many years, probably, but I think that the economy is getting to the point where we might see some activity out there again. And I think it's important that we do that that development occur in as thoughtful a way as possible. Now, sometimes, of course, people come along, they have plans, they have something they want to do, they've got a site, and that, if there's no reason not to approve it, it gets approved. One of the things that's happened recently with the planning board that I think is important is that the planning board,
Thank you.
were you asking me to put the mic up? Is that the planning board has partnered with North Country Council to do a corridor study of the Tenny Mountain Highway area, I think all the way from exit 26 down to the Rotary. And with the thought of looking at what development might occur there, how it might occur, how the roads will be used, where the entrances and exits will be, and so on. So I think that is probably one of the biggest things we're facing. And then I guess I would say that the second is the downtown area. And again, there are some things happening there. One of the recent suggestions that's been made, but not really acted on yet, is to evaluate the Green Street area behind the businesses on South Main Street, possibly with the thought of improving the parking or the configuration down there and that sort of thing. So I think that might be another fairly sizable and meaningful project that we might tackle. That was two, right?
That's great, thank you. That was two. Armin, what do you see as the two most important issues facing the town of Plymouth in the next 3 years?
Well, I agree with Mike on his first comments about the commercial development up on Tenny Mountain Highway. I think we have this wonderful opportunity here, which could solve my second point, which I'll get to in a minute. We have this great opportunity to provide commercial space that the planning board and that the residents have already voted for many positive benefits for the town. So in the next 3 years, you said, right, John?
Yes.
So in the next 3 years, one issue that I think really needs to be addressed will be this potential development area up on Tenny Mountain Highway in our commercial zone. There are very responsible ways to let this happen, and we need to embrace that so we can retain our wonderful downtown community that we have now. We have a unique situation here where we have this vibrant, old-fashioned downtown Plymouth where we have Christmas holiday parades, and it's a beautiful downtown with a little town common. But we also have this opportunity to have growth in our community, which will generate a lot of positive benefits. So having that potential growth, we really need to embrace that and promote that, in my opinion, so we can continue to have this wonderful community, this downtown community. Now the second the second point I want to make is, of course, budgeting. That's always a hot topic, you know. How can we spend less money? I hear from everybody, especially at the bank, my property taxes are killing me, you know. That's a common thing. Well, that could go in hand with the potential development that we have available up on Tenny Mountain Highway. It's going to provide much-needed tax revenue so we can continue to have this great downtown community and embrace these new businesses that come in for the betterment of everybody that lives here. You know, not only it'll provide jobs, it'll provide potential road improvements or traffic light improvements, those sort of things, but it'll also provide revenue so we can continue to provide the services that we need to provide. You know, we need to repair roads, we need to replace police department vehicles, there's lots of things. So those two things, they sort of go hand in hand, but I think what I'm saying is they both need to be addressed, and they both need to be addressed today, and maybe not even 3 years into the future.
Thank you. Omer, what do you see as the two most important issues facing the town of Plymouth in the next 3 years?
Thank you. The first issue that I see, and part of that, excuse me, part of that is because of what I see as an attorney practicing law here in central New Hampshire. My son is the chief prosecutor for the city of Franklin, New Hampshire, and my daughter-in-law is the deputy county attorney down in Belknap County. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is appears to me to be an explosion of drug use, drug abuse in our community. When I was the county commissioner, we found that a lot of our inmates in the House of Correction were there because of drug abuse, either stealing or burglaring and causing problems. So we've had some incidents here in town in the last few months that I think could cause people to call into question the quality of our life here in Plymouth. And again, we have some wonderful attributes, resources here in town. And so one of the things that I would want to make sure that we're working on, and this is one of the issues, is this apparent explosion, in my mind, of drug abuse in our communities, and we need to address that. And I think working with our police department and with our schools and the university, I think we need to address that and get that issue taken care of. I know we've been fighting a war on drugs in this country for the last 40 years, and I'm not sure that our country is winning that war. But that quality of life, that perception of our quality of life in Plymouth, that is going to have an impact on bringing businesses into Plymouth. We have the Tenny Mountain Master Plan, and another jewel that we haven't talked about that Plymouth has is its airport. And I understand that there's an airport master plan. And if we have that airport, if we have our airport becoming a greater jewel for the region, that's going to want to bring, I think, higher-end business people to Plymouth. And the higher-end businesses that we have, the better jobs that we're going to have. But Plymouth is again, a town that has a lot of attributes. But when you see what's happening in our region, Plymouth is not an island. We are part of a regional area. We have students coming in from all over the country. And we need to work very diligently with the resources that we have and to make our community a place where people want to come to live, raise their families, and enjoy the American dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Armin, what do you consider to be the responsibilities of a select board member, and how are you especially qualified to carry them out?
Qualifications to be a select board member. Well, I think being a very astute listener is the #1 qualification to being a select board member. When you're a select board member, Mike could probably attest to this, you need to listen to the community, listen to the members of the community, listen to the citizens, listen to what's going on. You need to be their proverbial voice of the community. You know, if you're appointed as a select person, you are just representing the town, the masses, et cetera, and making educated intellectual decisions on what the right things might need to happen. So being a selectman, I think, is more about listening, finding out from the citizens what is important, and then collectively, as a board, sitting down and finding the best ways to move forward. What makes me qualified to be a selectman? Well, as you know, I've never run for public office. This is a new thing for me. Very excited about it. Very anxious for it to get started. Qualifications, you know, I don't have a lot of experience, to be quite honest with you. I'm a very good listener. A lot of people in the community know me as a doer. I like to get things done. I like to be involved. And I like to consider myself a proactive thinker. I don't make rash decisions. I'll always seek the advice of others that maybe know a little bit more about what needs to happen. Hence, there's 5 people on the select board. I think I'm qualified to be a selectman. And I know I'm qualified to be a selectman. And I always give 110%. And I know I will do a good job.
Thank you. Homer, what do you consider to be the responsibilities of a select board member, and how are you specially qualified to carry them out?
Thank you for that question. I think some of the attributes of being a good public servant is keeping your eyes open, listening, be willing to hear what people have to say, go out, be proactive, go out and talk to folks. I am very active in the community. I'm involved in my church and church organizations. I'm involved in a local civic organization, which is working on the Livermore Falls project on the Pemi River, trying to make that a more family-friendly and a more family-oriented facility. Again, it's on the river that we share with Holderness and Campton. Being able to get along, collaborating, being able to share ideas with the other members on the board. I have had many years of public service over the years, serving as a member of the Board of Commissioners down in Sullivan County for 2 terms. I've served the people of Grafton County as a county commissioner here for a single term, ending in the end of 2012. I have been a youth sports coach, coaching youngsters in basketball and soccer over the years. And when you're a youth sports coach, you're not only dealing with the youngsters, you're dealing with the parents of those youngsters. And sometimes the parents don't quite understand why little Johnny or little Mary isn't playing on the front line and getting that chance to score all those goals. So there's a little bit of refereeing in there. But again, I love the community of Plymouth. This is where my family has been since 1897. I'm the 4th generation to be farming the land here in Plymouth, and I want to be able to give back, and again, I care about the community, and I'm hoping that you folks will consider my past service to the community. I'm on the zoning board right now and trying to help promote private property rights and bringing good business into town through the zoning board as the rules and regulations call for. And I thank you.
Thank you. Mike, what do you consider to be the responsibilities of a select board member, and how are you specially qualified to carry them out?
Well, I can't seem to remember the microphone. One of the responsibilities is to remember to pick up the microphone. But aside from that, you know, the basic responsibilities are to attend the select board meetings, to attend the meetings of those committees to which we are assigned, to participate in those meetings and to participate in whatever other meetings and public hearings occur outside of the meetings. We also have the responsibility, I would say, of attending some public events. We like to go to the events that are run by the nonprofits. Sometimes we have the Christmas parade, we have the holiday parade, I guess we call it now. The holiday parade, we have the, I don't know, just the other events that occur in town. And I see those as responsibilities, even though we don't really have to do them, they're the kind of places where we meet people every day, and we meet people that we don't see in other places. And as Armin said, one of our responsibilities is really to listen so that we can bring the knowledge that we get from people out on the street back into the meetings in order to make the decisions that we need to make. So I think, you know, the basic responsibility is, as Armin said, to listen, to know what's going on, to understand what the problems are in town, what decisions need to be made, and to deal with the other select board members in making the most responsible decisions possible. Now, why am I qualified to do that? Is the second part of the question. Well, I think I'm pretty good at it. I get along with all the other select board members. I do socialize. I get around in town. I know a lot of the people in town, and I'd like to get to know more of them. But time is somewhat limited, so I don't always, you know, I don't see everybody. But I think that I'm qualified because I am a person who wants to help, likes to listen, likes to make consensus-based decisions wherever possible. I'm not one who's likely to get into a fight or a battle with somebody if it's not absolutely necessary. And I have a great deal of respect for all the people that really run this town, and I think that's an important qualification too, because they really need to be respected, and I think I do that well, so I feel I'm qualified.
Thank you. Homer, if elected, what would be the first agenda item you would bring to a board meeting?
The first agenda item that I would bring is ask the police chief to come in and talk with the board. And I guess there's going to be two of us that'll be new, maybe. Well, maybe one old and one new. One experienced and one new. And what is happening, it's going to have to be in non-public session, but that would be one of the first things. I'm concerned. I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather, I'm an uncle, and I deal with young people in my law practice as a family law attorney, and there's a lot of things that are going on that we're not necessarily privy to, but as a member of the select board, I have an obligation to address those issues that I see that are of concern to my community, and finding out from our law enforcement folks what is going on with the perception that we have, you know, some issues with drug abuse in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, if elected, what would be the first agenda item you would bring to a board meeting?
Armand is helping me out quite a bit here, telling me when to pick up the microphone. I have recently sort of taken an interest in the street lighting thing, and we discussed that at some length last night. As most of you know, about a third or so of the streetlights in town have been switched to LEDs, and our friend Ray Gosney, who was a select board member for several years, really spearheaded that effort and did an awful lot of work to get that going and organized, and he was very helpful, but he's not doing it anymore. So I think what I'm going to do is take up the completion of the street light change over to LEDs, and that would probably be the first thing I'd be most interested in.
Thank you. Armin, if elected, what would be the first agenda item you would bring to a board meeting?
Something that's of paramount importance here in town, and Omer touched on this, is the drug problem that we're experiencing here in town. So the first agenda item, I would say, I would certainly want to get Steve Lefebvre, or the police chief, and the rest of the board members, and a lot of the community leaders, potentially Sarah Jane from the university, and have a real discussion on how this is affecting our community and how it's affecting the quality of life, not only for us, but for the younger generations that are upcoming. That is a very, very important issue that needs to be nipped in the bud, so to speak, immediately. Very important to try to get some plans in place to eliminate this issue, this concern, this problem. Find out what funding might be available so we can maybe better educate the local people. See if there's any funding grants available so we can increase policing if that's at all possible. Do a public awareness campaign. You know, maybe a lot of the people in the community don't really know what's going on. Maybe they should be educated about this so we can talk to our neighbors and our friends saying this is a problem, we need to deal with it. And you know, we need to deal with it as a community, not just as a select board. I think if everybody can be involved as much as possible, you know, this is a major problem that needs to be eliminated so we can retain our wonderful little downtown. Yes, the drug problem has been around for 40 years, longer than that probably. But that doesn't mean it needs to take over the community. We need to do whatever we can to try to eliminate that from our community and our society in general, not just in the town of Plymouth. So I think that would be the first thing, because it's a very important thing. It's more important than commercial development in our commercial zone. It's more important than decorating the town common on the holidays. This is a really important issue that I think a lot of community members could have input and insight so we can deal with it properly and deal with it now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, I think I had 30 seconds left. I don't want people to forget about the fact that we have Katie here in town. Deb Narrows is the executive director of this organization. Again, Plymouth is blessed with many nonprofits that we can work together with, and certainly Katie is one of these organizations that's been fighting very hard to address the drug and alcohol abuse issues in our community, and certainly that's an organization that we would continue to work with and seek advice and input from. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item that was submitted is a statement followed by a question. Mike, taxes can only be lowered by expansion of the tax base. Do you agree or disagree, and why?
Well, thank you, Armin. No, that's not true. I mean, the taxes could be reduced by reducing spending or by increasing the tax base, I suppose. I mean, so ask the question again? I'm sorry,
The statement was taxes can only be lowered by expansion of the tax base. Follow-up question is, do you agree or disagree, and why?
Well, I disagree, and I guess the why is because the taxes can be decreased by decreasing spending. And I suppose I should explain a little bit. I think that in our situation, a lot of what we do is appropriate for our community. I think the size of our police force, the size of our fire department, the size of our public works department, the size of our town office. I think these facilities, these groups of people, these services that we pay for are adequately sized for our community. And so I don't think it makes sense for us to reduce those services. I mean, we already are sort of on the edge with the police department and the fire department and sometimes with the roads. So I don't think we're lavish spenders by any stretch of the imagination. As Omer has pointed out, we have nonprofits. Some people will point to the university as a place that ends up, creates or at least constitutes a lot of non-tax property without always looking at the benefits that it provides. But I feel that the town's services are well-sized for the size of our town and the number of people we have here. So my feeling is that the tax base should be expanded, and I think that it will be expanded by probably additional businesses out on the Tenny Mountain Highway first. And I think that while that's happening, we are going to preserve the downtown because the downtown is always going to be a very attractive, nice village for us. But I think some of the other development that's more suited to larger tracts and businesses that are more likely to be outside of town are going to be on the Tenny side. So I'm in favor of expanding the tax base by expanding commercial development.
Thank you. Amen. Statement followed by a question. Taxes can only be lowered by expansion of the tax base. Do you agree or disagree, and why?
I disagree with that. If you can sort of relate the town's tax income to maybe like a savings account that we all have or a checking account that we have, you can increase your revenue two ways. You can earn more money, maybe by tax revenue. You can spend less money by budgeting. They will both accomplish the same feat. Put it in simple terms like that, of course we all want more tax revenue. We want to be progressive in the community. And besides the whole Tenny Mountain Highway area that we've touched on already, there's more than just that as well for increased tax revenue for those people that are maybe a little bit opposed of commercial development. Think about the enterprise center that we have. A lot of those are startup businesses. They're sort of getting their feet wet, and when they get to a point where they can have this fully functioning, operational, potentially profitable business, well, why can't we keep them in town here? I would hope that's our plan, because there's another business, there's potential employment, there's another tax revenue for the town. Of course, spending. Everybody wants to keep a tab on their spending, It's very important. And it's no different whether it's yourself with your own checking account or if it's a town with a budget that's much higher. Also, another thing to consider is collaboration. We have this university here. If we can have increased collaboration, we have a great deal of it already, but if we can have increased collaboration of pooling resources together, services, those sort of things, that would be beneficial. You don't have to spend as much money potentially on some other services, maybe get some help from the university. And we do that now, and it's wonderful. We need to continue that. So there's a few things we can do, so I would definitely disagree with that statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Homer. Statement is, taxes can only be lowered by expansion of the tax base. Question, do you agree or disagree, and why?
I also disagree with that statement as made. Certainly, by reducing spending in your entity, in your political entity, you can reduce taxes. However, I think what we need to be focusing on is our tax base. So I just can't agree. Excuse me, I can't agree with that statement. Saying that they can only be lowered by expanding the tax base, but expanding the tax base is the best way, I believe, to bring in more tax revenue without overburdening our existing taxpayers. Again, there are some things that the town has already got going in place, the Tenny Mountain Master Plan, the Airport Master Plan. But if you drive around Plymouth, you'll see that we have some properties that are just sitting unused. Maybe there's things in the works where new commercial ventures are going in. I'm not privy to all of that. Maybe some of the selectmen are, maybe the planner is, and maybe the town administrator is. But certainly we've got the old McDonald's site out there. We're up by the Brimstone building. We've got another vacant building beside that. So why are landowners, why are building owners in Plymouth keeping land or keeping their buildings from being used? So we need to find ways to encourage the right type of development coming into Plymouth, encourage good businesses to come into Plymouth to bring in good jobs, and keep an eye on our budget. Make sure that our folks are accountable. One of the things that I've noticed in the years that I've been involved in public service, we have to remember that there are two types of government. There is the elective government, which is what I would be doing as a member of the select board. We're elected by the people. Then there's the bureaucratic government out there. And the purpose of bureaucratic government is to grow and grow, because they see the need, they perceive that things need to be done, and so they find the need to constantly find new things to do and grow and grow and grow. It's up to the elective government as the representatives of the people to say, well, hold on a minute, let's revise this. So we need to use our elected officials to do the accountability and to be that balance to the bureaucratic government that we have to have, unfortunately, in this modern society. Thank you.
Thank you. Armin, what do you see as future needs for municipal buildings in Plymouth?
One thing I see is definitely something will need to be done, I would say, in the next 5 to 10 years with our fire department. I know we're doing some great things right now with the property right next door for housing and services. And when that building was built, I believe it had a 30-year lifespan back in the day, and I'm sure it's exceeded that by now. And if we continue with our development, our progression in town, as we're going to, maybe a little bit towards the western terminus of the town on Tenny Mountain area, well, do we need to have a substation for fire and/or police protection out that way? Well, we may need to. We are expanding. It's happening. So I think that's going to have to be addressed in the next maybe 5 years. Right now, we're doing some good things with the fire station. And again, look where our police station is located. If, again, we have more businesses, more property, potentially more homeowners in that direction in the western part of town, I think that's a real concern that will need to be addressed fairly soon. We all want progression in our community. We all want protection in our community. I live at Tenny Mountain Ski Area. I'm the furthest away from downtown as you can get when you live in Plymouth, I think. So for somebody that lives in town, this is potentially not a concern or an issue, but I think we owe it to everybody in town, not just the people in the village. We owe it to everybody that we can provide these safety services that are essential. So I think the construction or at least looking at the future of our fire and police departments will be a big issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Omer, what do you see as future needs for municipal buildings in Plymouth?
Obviously, from what I have seen, and I had a brief tour of our municipal building a few weeks ago. I believe we're going to need to address our town offices. How do we do that? That's a sore issue. You know, I'm a taxpayer. We have a beautiful municipal building right here in the center of town. We've just come off, a couple of years ago, some very painful discussions about the fire department and the law enforcement safety buildings. So we have to address these issues in terms of the fact that we have a partner here in town with the university. We have to meet the needs, the new, what do they call those things that computers? We have to deal with computers and bringing everything up to date. I'm a bit of a Luddite, you'll have to forgive me. You'll have to forgive me for that. But again, the discussion keeps coming up. What are we going to do about our police department? What are we going to do about our fire department? And I think we've got some issues with crowding in the municipal building. And what I see as the part of the answer is location. I think properly located, and with some of the land resources that we have in Plymouth, properly sited, our fire department can be an outlet onto a road where they don't have to go 20 miles an hour and they have to wait for the college students to, cross the road. And the same with the police department. And times are changing, folks. There's people out there that want to hurt us in many ways, and so we need to make sure that we have a law enforcement agency that is properly staffed, properly equipped. We have to make sure that our fire department and medical or first responders are in a situation where they can respond appropriately. And what it's going to take planning, and it's going to take folks from all over the community to come in. And we've got good folks in our community that can help put together an effective plan to meet the needs of our community into the future. Not an easy question, no doubt about it. And this is something that's going to take a lot of hard work, and I'm willing to help join in that fight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, what do you see as future needs for municipal buildings in Plymouth?
Well, as we all know, we've had a fairly lengthy discussion over the past several years about both police and fire buildings. The most recent proposal was a new fire department building in the present location of the fire department, which did not receive the necessary vote. I'm not sure, of course this was the middle of a recession, I'm not sure what's going to happen in a couple or 3 years. Maybe things will change a little bit, but I feel like we've made some progress with the fire department. We are going to have a house where these people will be able to sleep, and offices that will be relatively warm and clean, and I think that is a big step in the right direction. At the same time, we're freeing up space for additional vehicles or other equipment inside the fire department building. So I think it's not a perfect solution, but we did it for a couple $100,000 instead of a couple $1 million. So I think that that's a good step. Probably the police department is something that needs to be looked at least in the medium term. We've spent a fair amount of money over the past few years. Chief LaFave in particular has taken relatively small amounts of money and invested them in the building to make the building tighter, cleaner, warmer. And he's also in the process of improving the whole dispatch area. So the police department is in better shape than it was, but to me that seems like it's going to be a problem that we need to address before too long. And then I think, I don't know a whole lot about this, but at some point in the not too distant future, I think we also need to be thinking about relocating Highway because it's down by the river where it's really not supposed to be, and there are some discussions about where that might be relocated too.
Thank you. Omer, what are the biggest opportunities on the horizon for Plymouth?
Location, location, location. We are in one of the most beautiful parts of the state of New Hampshire, New England. We have the river. We're working with one of the local civic organizations is working with the towns of Holderness and Plymouth and the university to make the Livermore Falls recreation area, working with the state, Department of Resource and Economic Development, to make the Livermore Falls area much more family-friendly. I believe if you type in Livermore Falls, New Hampshire on YouTube, you will see a whole bunch of videos of kids jumping off the Pumpkin Seed Bridge, jumping off the side of the cliffs there, if you call them cliffs. If I were a parent and I saw one of my kids doing that, I would have a heart attack, no doubt about it. But we are working toward making this a more family-friendly destination place. So we've got the Pemi River. We've got nearby ski areas. We've got a fantastic land base. We've got wonderful people here, and of course our biggest opportunity is the university. And we have some fantastic people that are at the university, and we have young people from all over. Well, I'm sure we have even young people from other parts of the world that come to our university. So we've just, but it's a matter of planning, but at the same time not stepping on the rights of private property owners. We need to make it the type of community working together where people want to come and raise their children. And again, we have a lot of recreational opportunities here, and with the university, the educational opportunities that are here, the new Enterprise Center, I think we're blessed to have been able to have that sited here. I want to thank Mark Scarano for working to get that here, and the folks from the Chamber of Commerce. So we've got we've got recreational value here, we've got land base, the land resources, and we've got the people, and we've got water, sewer, and three-phase power to boot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, what are the biggest opportunities on the horizon for Plymouth?
Was that a plural?
Opportunities?
Yes, it was.
I'm going to mention one, and Omer already touched on it, but I think one of the greatest opportunities that we've seen in a long time is really this Plymouth Enterprise Center. This is a fine facility. It brings together the town, the local or the regional economic development company, the university, and businesses into one place for the purpose of expanding business for the region. But I think that the people who run these enterprise centers will tell you that a good percentage of the businesses that are begun in a place like that stay local. Now, in Plymouth, it would be very nice if they could grow several businesses in that place, and that those businesses would want to stay here. But we don't have a lot of places where they can go. We've got a couple empty, decrepit buildings, but we don't have good office space available, not much of it. We don't have any kind of industrial park or anything like that. So I think one of the greatest opportunities for us is to build or somehow attract a developer that will build the type of real estate that those businesses can go into in the next 10 years or so.
Thank you, Mike. Armin, what are the biggest opportunities on the horizon for Plymouth?
Well, both Mike and Omer talked a little bit about feelings. I have very similar thoughts as these two other candidates. I talked to Mike Technowski when he first came into town about the incubator facility, the Enterprise Center, and sometimes I get ahead of myself in my thinking of, well, what's the 10-year plan? I don't want to know about the 2-year plan. I want to know about the long-term effects of this facility. Because when I see these companies coming to town at this Enterprise Center, I can see them moving to town, bringing their families here, maybe renting a place, maybe buying a place, maybe I can give them a mortgage at the bank, I don't know. And they want to stay in the community. But again, the real estate problem, where do we put them? Of course we want these companies, we want these families. You know, we all live here for a reason. We live here because it's the quality of life. And look at the location, as Omer talked about. Look where we are. We can go kayaking, we can go biking after work, we can go to the ocean in an hour and a half, we can climb Mount Washington or drive up Mount Washington. It's an hour away. Skiing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we want these people to love the community just like we do, but we need to make sure that it's possible for people to enjoy that. And again, having these companies to stay here would be a wonderful thing, in my opinion. Of course, it's going to bring tax revenue, it's going to bring rental income for commercial space, their families are going to be maybe joining our community. So that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Amin. Mike, the next question. What is your perception of the relationship between the town of Plymouth and Plymouth State University?
Well, I think that the relationship between the university and the town has never been better. And I am very happy about it. Val is one of these people who has become very friendly, actually, with President Steen, and they are able to talk about just almost any issue and to do it in a constructive manner, and they do it frequently, which is a different sort of communication between town government and the university than we've ever had before. I think that though we still have, you know, occasional problems in the neighborhoods, even that has dissipated to a large extent. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way the university has educated their students and has asked them to respect our property rights and to be good neighbors. And I just think that, well, another example I think that's already come up is that the university is currently helping Chief Clogston renovate the house that we've been talking about, because the university, of course, participates with the Life Services Safety Agreement. They pay us money every year for toward the fire department and other things, and they have voluntarily come into that building to help renovate it. And all of these things are very positive. I'm very happy about the relationship between the university and the town at this point.
Thank you. Amin, what is your perception of the relationship between the town of Plymouth and Plymouth State University?
Well, for those of you that have been in town for many, many years, you can all remember back in the 80s when Plymouth State University had sort of a different vibe or a different feel to it. It was, what's the politically correct word? Well, it was a party school, for lack of a better term. Things have changed tremendously since that time. I think the collaboration between the town and the university has become a wonderful, really wonderful thing. I talked to Val about this a few times, and again, I'm sure she was very instrumental in getting this to happen. And this great collaboration that we have really needs to continue. So once we're elected on the board, we really need to continue that and find other ways to continue to have that grow. You know, the university is a huge part of this community. Without the university, this community would not potentially be as vibrant or as youthful or as fun as it could be. So embracing this university and embracing the collaboration and expanding on that, even more so than it is today, is an extremely important issue. But I feel it's 100 times better than it used to be. Thanks to Val, thank you, and many others, I'm sure, that have helped. Yes, Mike, thank you. So that's my thoughts on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Oma, what is your perception of the relationship between the town of Plymouth and Plymouth State University?
Thank you. My perception is that I believe we have a very good relationship between the university and the townspeople. I know that there's a committee made up of, it's kind of a collaboration committee between the university and the town to discuss issues of concern. I happen to spend a little bit of time sitting in a little office on Main Street in Plymouth, 47 Main Street, a lot of times into the evening, and I get to see a lot of the young people walking by, and they seem to be interested in some of the things that we have in the window of that particular office. I think one of the other things that I've noticed is I find more of the university folks getting involved, at least, again, my perception, getting involved in the community. And so now I'm starting to see, you know, people that are administration, different professors that I've had a chance to meet. And so that, I think, you know, knowledge, knowing who your, for lack of a better word, that your neighbors are at the university, that helps to break down any negative perceptions that might be out there. But I find, I happen to be in a local civic organization with the president of the university, and she brings a lot of information to our civic organization. We work with the, we have had opportunities to work with the young people in some of our fundraisers for the community. So I think the relationship is good. There's always, in any relationship, there's always ways of making it better. And I think whatever we can do as a community to help foster the role and the mission of Plymouth State University, it's definitely going to be in the best interest of the town. And I would certainly work toward that. But anytime I've had any interaction with anyone at the university, it's been of the highest regard, highest caring, and I think we're blessed to have these folks here. Thank you.
Thank you. Armin, we've talked about opportunities for Plymouth. The next submission asks, what are the greatest challenges the town faces?
I think one of the greatest challenges that we all face as citizens, as residents, as board members, in this unique community that we have, a very large challenge will be the balance situation in terms of maintaining our small town aura that we all enjoy, but yet progressing into our future as is necessary for us to continue. Very challenging, very fine line. I've heard some people come up to me and say, well, we don't want to be the next Tilton, New Hampshire. Well, we're not Tilton, New Hampshire, we're Plymouth, New Hampshire. Okay? So as far as a challenge, to answer the question, the challenge will be, how are we going to progress as we need to and still maintain this wonderful community that we all cherish? And as citizens, as residents, as taxpayers, as select board members, we need to figure that out. And that's a big deal because we want to maintain our quality of life here. Otherwise, we wouldn't live here. And we've already talked about, location, 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 as Omer said. I talked a little bit about the fun things we can do here that are very close to us. So we need to find a way to maintain that and yet improve, progress, move forward at the same time. And it sounds like, oh, that's not a big deal, but that's a very challenging thing that needs to be addressed. And I think we need to do it not as a select board team, I'm sorry, but we need to do that as a community and really, really get a lot of input from the people of the community, because you live in the community. We need your input. What is best for you? We need to hear it, and then we can decide as a board what is the best way to implement that. So that's the biggest challenge I can see absolutely in the next 5 to 10 years, because in that next 5 to 10 years, that's when progression, I mean, we're sort of at the end of a recession as well, so I've heard anyway. We really need to address it because things are going to improve, and when things improve, maybe businesses will want to come in, maybe some developers want to come in. We need to have a plan in place so we do it correctly. Thanks.
Thank you. Omer, we've already discussed opportunities for Plymouth. The submission asks, what are the greatest challenges the town faces?
Folks in Grafton County is getting older. And how do we, so we need to bring in, the young people, the youth, and the vibrancy that means to our community. One other challenge that I think we have is, and I'm glad that Mrs. Bentwood came into the room because she jogged my memory, we have an opportunity here, folks, to provide for our veterans. We have a homeless issue in New Hampshire, and we have an opportunity to provide for our homeless veterans. And the Soldier On program is something that I would hope that would be embraced by the people here in the town of Plymouth. We owe a lot to our veterans. We have some veterans here in the room, and I want to thank them for their service to our wonderful country.
There and develops over there is the kind that's going to attract young people to work for it. And so I think probably one of our biggest challenges all over the state, but in Plymouth just as well, is keeping our young people around and making the area attractive for them and economically viable for them.
Thank you.
We call them frost heaves, too, Mike. And we've had frost heaves in New Hampshire ever since I was a little kid. That's why the cars break over the years, Michael. Frost heaves.
Frost heaves it is.
Yeah. Next question. Omer, do you believe that Plymouth should continue to be a center for nonprofit organizations and the buildings that house them, or should we insist that the surrounding towns pick up their share?
Thank you for that question. I don't see in the United States of America how anybody in any town can insist that another town do something that they do or don't want to do. I believe that Plymouth, in being able to provide a home or a venue for nonprofit organizations, is good. I've been involved with nonprofit organizations my entire professional life, either VNAs, visiting nurse associations, youth sports organizations, civic organizations. This is what makes the state of New Hampshire great, is the fact that we provide opportunities for our people to give back through volunteering and getting people together and doing things without the government having to do it, without the taxpayers being forced to take money out of their pocket to pay for things. New Hampshire is noted for its volunteerism and for the work that the nonprofit organizations do. And it's so much easier, I think, it's so much better for people to voluntarily give their money where they think it's going to be the best, rather than have the government take it out of their pocket and let the government decide where it should be given best. You know, I may be a little conservative in that regard, but Plymouth has the university here, and that gives the young, that's having all of our nonprofits here gives some of the young people at the university a chance to volunteer in the community. The Pemi Youth Center, fantastic opportunity for the university students to come down and work with those young people. You know, the whole Village Center, the services that are provided out of there are tremendous. But again, how can anybody in New Hampshire say that we need to be insisting that somebody else
Is the fact that we have these nonprofits. I know sometimes they can feel burdensome, and I know that to some extent our tax bills are higher because of them. But we are really a hub for a lot of area towns, and a lot of people come here to do their shopping, to go to church, to do a lot of things. And I think we're always going to be that. And I think that that's something we should embrace, because that's a lot of what we are and who we are. So I am not in favor of trying to kick the nonprofits out. I think they provide a tremendous service. I think they are a great benefit to our community, and I welcome them. I am a member of the board of Katie and have been for 6 or 8 years, and I've always been very impressed with the work that Katie does. And I think that it provides a wonderful service to the children of this community and to the surrounding towns, and I'd hate to see it gone. I would also have to agree with Omer that the question suggests that we somehow require these nonprofits to leave, and I don't think we have any way to do that.
Thank you. Armin, do you believe that Plymouth should continue to be a center for nonprofit organizations and the buildings that house them, or should we insist that the surrounding towns pick up their share?
I think insisting to send or to have these other towns pick up their fair share, so to speak, is ludicrous. These nonprofits are here for the betterment of the community. That's why they're here. They're here, Voices Against Violence. I was at the ball a few weeks back, and listened to some people that Voices had helped. And after listening to these two people that had been through such a hard time spill their heart out in front of 200 of us, it brought us all to tears. And to know that an organization such as this is in our community, and we support this, and we support it by volunteering or maybe monetary donations or providing them a place where they can operate in the community. I don't know anyone that would want to send that away. That would be sending a terrible message. The Circle program is another one. I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, there's so many of them. The service they provide to our community is invaluable. Who's to say that somebody in our community might need that service tomorrow, and we would have to say to them, you better get a taxi because you're going over to Bridgewater. You can't do it here. I'm sorry. There's absolutely no way that we should do something like that. Absolutely not. I feel very strongly about that. And these nonprofits, again, they're here for the benefit of the community members. And if we have the ability to donate a little bit of our time, it's not all about money all the time. These organizations need help. They need physical help. If we can do that, I try to do that as much as I can. I think a lot of you know that. You've probably seen me at a lot of events. We need to keep that in the community. And if it becomes a point of dollars, well, we need to find a way to keep them in the community. Find a way to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mike, what is your position on the Northern Pass?
Oh. Well, I have had these little cards printed that I had printed 3 years ago, and one of the things they say is no northern pass. The select board has actually taken a vote unanimously, I believe it was a unanimous vote against, taking a position against northern pass. Now, this was all done before the debate about burying the lines was really very prominent. And I think that if it turned out that Northern Pass wanted to bury all of its lines from the Canadian border down to Franklin or wherever they're going, I might feel a little differently about it. But I think that the towers are a big problem, and I've been against it right along.
Thank you. Armin, what is your position on the Northern Pass?
I'm not going to elaborate too much on this because it's a very short answer. I think the whole project should just go away, to be completely honest with you. We have many means or many ways that we could generate enough electricity so we wouldn't have to have a northern pass. And I think it's a much larger issue than just whether putting a northern pass through our community. Absolutely oppose it 100%, and I do not want it to come.
Thank you. Omer, what is your position on the Northern Pass?
Thank you for that question. I am opposed to the Northern Pass, and as a county commissioner, I took a position against the Northern Pass, and when I was a member of the Grafton County Board of Commissioners, we passed a resolution saying that we were opposed to the Northern Pass as proposed. I believe that our nation, for its own national security, should not be relying on a major portion of electricity from a foreign country. And I believe that we in the United States of America should be doing more to promote and encourage our own local resources for making energy available. I'm shocked that the state of New Hampshire several years ago, when they passed a law encouraging alternative forms of energy, talked about geothermal and wind and solar, and the statute failed to mention hydro. Hydro power is what made New England great. We have all kinds of little brooks and rivers in Plymouth that are perfect for micro hydroelectric generating. Again, this gets back to those rules and regulations that prevent private entrepreneurs from being able to come in and do the things that could provide that infrastructure and energy is an important part of that infrastructure. So, in answer to the question, I am opposed to the Northern Pass. I'm opposed to the whole idea of coming into our country, but if it's going to happen, bury the lines in state-owned rights-of-way or state-owned railroad beds. Let the money that's going to be coming from the rentals or from the generation or the tariffs on that come to the state of New Hampshire. That would be in the best interest of all of the people involved. Thank you.
Thank you. And the late entry question, Armin, what are you reading right now?
Well, we actually talked about this before this session, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to actually say what I was really reading. You know, we talked about Bill Bryson a little bit. He's got some great books, which I recently read, A Short History of Nearly Everything. So for those of you that haven't read it, it's like 1,000 pages. I think there's a fair amount of fiction in there too. But I'm actually reading a book about Prohibition right now. I bought the book in October. I was on vacation and I needed a book. I didn't bring a book with me. I was on a little road trip. And I'd always been interested about Prohibition. And I was in Vermont at a bookstore, and it perked my interest, so I bought it. And that was October, and I still haven't finished reading it. I'm sorry to say. That's what I'm reading right now, and it's very, very interesting. For those of you that don't know a lot about Prohibition, it started in the 1850s, and it took almost 70 years for it to come to fruit in this nation. 70 years. It's a long time for something to come into law. Of course, it didn't last very long either, because think about that for just a moment. That's what I'm reading right now. I can't wait to hear what the other two are reading. Thank you.
Okay, we'll keep you in suspense. We won't ask. Omer, what are you reading right now?
You said there'd be no math questions tonight.
Yes. We're just looking for one.
In addition to reading the Bible, I'm just about finished with a book called "Or Perish in the Attempt." It's about the medical aspects of the Lewis and Clark expedition back in the early 1800s, after our country purchased from France what was called the Louisiana Purchase, and President Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis and William Clark with the Corps of Discovery up the Missouri, across the Rocky Mountains and the Bitterroots, and into Oregon. And this was probably the worst time for me to be reading that book with the pneumonia and the other maladies that I've been going through, because what they were giving these poor guys for any little malady that they had, it was shocking. One of the quotes from the book, Dr. Benjamin Rush, who gave some, I think, a 2-week training session to Meriwether Lewis, Benjamin Rush said that if you bleed a patient long enough, you don't have to worry about hemorrhaging. Thank you.
Thank you. I know the question.
Mike, you know the question?
You don't have to repeat
Okay.
it. I'm not reading anything. I can make this really simple. I watch American Restoration and Antiques Roadshow. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we thank you. We'll wrap up our Candidates Night 2014 with Lewis and Clark to Prohibition to the Antiques Roadshow. We thank you. We want to thank again Plymouth State University for letting us utilize this wonderful facility. We want to thank the candidates for coming out tonight. Diane, thank you for your efforts, along with Stuart and the staff here. Jules with PBTV, thank you. Bill for timing. I want to thank the town for taking the time to help organize all of this, and all of you for attending. I want to thank everybody who's watching this evening. We trust that it's piqued your interest in this race. We hope it'll encourage you to bring your questions that have been risen in your mind to the candidates, call them, seek them out, write them a letter. Get to know them better and understand the positions, because they'll represent you. We want to encourage you this season to utilize the privilege and the right and the duty we have to get out and vote. So please, take this, use it as a springboard to get involved more with the town, with your fellow citizens, and exercise your right and vote. We thank you, and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Yes, thank you. Hope you had a fun time. Not too much math. That was funny. But you said there'd be no math. Just one.